Okay, so you bring up some of what's going on with the prison system in the UK. You've been to prison a couple times. Actually, I think about 2 weeks ago, you might have been in prison for a day or something. Is that right?
I was arrested again. I've been arrested and charged again, yes.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too much into the things that you've been arrested for. Some of them sound like extremely trumped up charges. This is a lot of what your book is about. But can you talk a little bit about what your experience was like in prison and how powerful the ideas of Islamism are actually spreading in the prison system?
So from the first time I went to custody in 2004, 2005, things have moved forward very quickly within the prison system. To when the next time that I went back into prison was 2010 for actually illegally entering America. But that was 2010. And what I've witnessed each time I've been in custody would terrify anyone. And I honestly say that if you could see the maximum security prisons that with the most dangerous prisoners and most dangerous men in the UK are being used as ISIS training camps. They're ISIS training camps. The white lads, the black lads, everyone is converting. Everyone has a big, huge beard. It is the biggest gang in the system, and it's something that the authorities have not got a grip of. They can't control. The imams, God bless them, some of them are trying, but they're seen as stooges too. So the imams, people are not taking their shahada and converting to Islam in the mosque on Friday. They're doing it on the wing, on the prisoners' wings. They run their own mosques.
Right. So this is going to sound sort of amateurish because I've never been to prison. But when you've been there, how is it that these ideas spread? Why is it that the prison system is allowing? Now I know this is in the United States too. There's all kinds of crazy religious stuff that goes on in prisons and drug deals and all. It's all nuts. But what is going on that they're even allowing these ideas to spread?
They can't stop them. They can't stop them. Islam forms a brotherhood, straight away, a brotherhood. You mess with one Muslim, you mess with every Muslim. So in some instances, Islam is being used within the prison system, used for power, control, money. It's something that anyone can attach themselves to, and that's what's happened. But it's also been orchestrated and organised too. You see in British prisons where if a Muslim gets a non-Muslim to convert, outside sources are sending them in money. Yeah. So, and also, if you know the ideology of Islam, it's the pathway to heaven for them. It's the pathway to heaven is to spread Islam, to spread dawah, and to convert prisoners. But what you're seeing then is some of the most dangerous and extreme people in the UK are converting to Islam. And it also gives, when I say it's powerful, look, in the UK, we've lost our identity. Through political correctness and through years and years of being beaten down, English people have lost their community. We don't have the community feeling that Muslim community have. And when you've lost your identity and you're taught time and time again, or you're told time and time again that your identity and your culture and your history is not good, and then comes along this powerful community that will stick together, and you'll never be on your own, and it gives them everything they've been searching for. You have to remember, a lot of people who are in the prison system have been wronged their whole life from a very young age. They've done a lot of wrong as well, but there's a reason many of them have chose that path. They've started with nothing, they've had nothing, and they've got nothing. Islam gives them a cause. It gives them something to fight for. It gives them something to concentrate on. And I can look. I've seen a lot in my life, but what I saw happening in the prison system, I don't know how we're going to deal with it. Well, I do know steps we can take. If you look at the statistics, in French prisons, out of a population of, I believe, 7% Muslim, 70% of the prisoners are Muslim. In the UK, I spoke to prison officers who said that in 1 week they had 60 conversions because a Muslim gang had come into the prison and just started beating and attacking everybody to convert. And then before you know it, everyone just converts for the easy time, because if you're in trouble and you want protection, you convert.
So when you were in jail, speaking of being beaten, you were beaten basically to a pulp, right? I mean, all your teeth knocked out and really some horrible stuff, but you never converted. So how did you even, or I guess just talk about the violence that you were subjected to first.
So I was, in the UK prison system, they have laws and rules that they have to follow. They have a duty of care for every prisoner. Now, what they did went against every single rule. So I'm under no doubt. In fact, if I talk, when I was taken to Wood Hill is a maximum security prison in the UK that houses some of the country's most feared and dangerous terrorists. I was in prison for a financial irregularity on a form. Yeah, for that offence, you go to an open prison where you go home. Yeah, I was taken to a maximum security Category A prison. I was put in my cell, and the very first day when my door first opened, it was an ex-Royal Marine commando who's in the British military, and he said, when they come to get you from this cell, do not leave this cell. And I went, what? He goes, your life depends on it. Don't leave this cell. And then 10 minutes later, he's come with 2 other prison officers and said, come on, you're going to B wing. Obviously, I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving this cell.
Yeah.
Now, because I didn't leave the cell, I then get arrested. So I get a further charge. But I'm arrested, and then I go to see my solicitor the next day, and I have a meeting with my solicitor about what's happening. When they take me back after the meeting, they open up a waiting room, and as soon as I look in the waiting room, I see the huge beard of a white convert. I'm put into the room with about 8 people in it, and I'm violently attacked. And the door's locked. The door was locked by the prison officers. The door was locked, and I'm left to be violently beaten. And then not just that, but I was arrested again for fighting. They said, but that's just one experience in the prison system. To be honest, I'm lucky, and I believe that people were pulling strings in order to have me killed. And I think even they are scratching their heads to how I walked out. And that's just one experience. That's happened time and time. You said I spent a day the other week in custody again.
Yeah.
This was quite recent, just probably 6 months ago. I was coming to the end of my licence period with the authorities, where they have you on a control order. I wasn't allowed to contact people who were in the organisation I used to, and this was for a so-called mortgage fraud. Yeah, anyone who reads the story of what happened will see what it was all about. But I was I was taken for my last 8 days. So the last 8 days I was put back in prison. I was taken to a prison called Peterborough, where I said at the start, as soon as I got there, I said, I've got 8 days left. 8 days. I'm going to get killed. Yeah, just put me in isolation. I don't care if you don't open the door for 8 days. Mm-hmm. And in 8 days, let me go home. I've come out of my cell, and I've told the prison officer again. I said, look, we know what's going to happen here. And they've said, oh, we'll have a word. And then a prisoner has come up to me, an English prisoner, and he put his hand over his mouth. He said, you're going to get done with boiling water. Now, in prison, they put boiling water with sugar, and it will take your face off. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking. I've got 2 minutes to think. I said, who's going to do it? And he said, the lad behind the door has put the money up because he'd paid money to have me hurt. Now, the lad standing next to the door was doing 28 years in prison for a murder, where they cut a man's nose off, they cut his ears off, and they killed him. Now, there was 4 of them in for that murder. I'm in for 8 days. I am known as someone who I've had Al-Shabaab have named me to be killed. I've had 6 government Osman warnings saying that there's intelligence I'm going to be murdered by Muslims. And here I am doing 8 days housed with Muslim murderers. Sorry. And then, so my mind's going quick. I already know that I've asked the prison authorities to segregate me, so there's no luck there. I look across and I do what I had to do. And I before he has a chance to turn around with his cup, I strike him. And then the prison, all the screws, the prison officers come and jump in. Now, I went before the prison governor for that offence, where I explained myself. I said, look, you put me in this position where I have to defend myself. They decided to take no further action. I was released from prison. I then went on a holiday with my wife and children. I landed back at home at Luton Airport at midnight, and the police were waiting for me. They arrested me in front of my kids, and they arrested me for attacking the Somalian prisoner who was going to do me with boiling water. They then made a decision in October last year of no further action. So they said, we're not taking any further action. I then recently, just 2 weeks ago, I launched Pegida UK, which is a new organisation to have street demonstrations. And 2 days later, they come and rearrested me for the offence that they'd already dropped.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of what your book is about, and it's sort of this endless cycle that you've been part of. And I know we could talk about the prison stuff forever because you're just scratching the surface of it. But let's talk about Pegida a little bit. So I think you just got back from Germany. You were doing something with them in Germany. Is that right?
I just got back last night. So I went to Copenhagen first, where I brought British journalists with us. So we went to Copenhagen to sort of launch Pegida in Denmark, and to ask the people to stand with us on the 6th of February. Because on the 6th of February, we're planning demonstrations in 14 countries now. This is the first time a coalition like this has been formed, and it's only been made possible by the commitment and the people of Dresden and their leadership of Lutz Bachmann and the others in Dresden. Because for the last year, every single Monday for 52 weeks, they have taken to the streets in their tens of thousands of times. The demonstration I just went to this Monday, there was well over 10 to 15,000 people there, in a completely peaceful and civilised manner, to express their concern through passive resistance of what's happening.
So, just to be clear, when this mass attack happened in Cologne just a couple weeks ago at the beginning of the year, it seemed like the police were not there. People did not know who to turn to. Women were being raped and attacked and all of that stuff. And then there were some demonstrations a couple days later, I think in Cologne and some other cities, and suddenly there were a lot of police to police the people that were there to protest the violence that happened to the women. So there's something really backwards here.
I was there at that demonstration. I know exactly what it is. When you get large disturbances of Muslims, the police do stay away. Because if they go in with their batons, if they go in and try and police the streets, they'll provoke a riot, and that riot will spread, and they know that. So that we've seen that many times. When we hang up here, I can send you video after video, which actually shows the police running away in the UK. Now, they don't run away from us. They'd knock your teeth out and knock your head off before they run away. When it comes, they're told to police the communities differently. Now, on New Year's Eve, the head of the police actually asked his superiors, he asked for an extra 100 police officers. He was refused.
Yeah.
And then what we saw was these mass attacks and these mass rapes of German women. And you're right, they had no one to turn to. And I travelled out there for the next demonstration, and lo and behold, you've got thousands of police officers, you've got water cannons, and German people were attacked with water cannons by the police.
So is the situation in Germany particularly precarious, even though you mostly focus in the UK because that's where you're from? I've heard a lot of people say that in Germany, because of the guilt related to the Holocaust, that they feel as a nation a certain amount of guilt. So when these migrants and all these people want to come there, they feel an extra need to help them. And because of that, that's why Merkel let in whatever it is, I think it's 1.2 million people. And that even when they do violent acts, as a society, they're more condoning of it because they know that their ancestors have done some pretty horrible stuff.
Well, this generation of Germans seem to be living with and suffering from guilt from Hitler.
Yeah.
The next generation of Germans will suffer and live with guilt from Angela Merkel. So that's what they need to wake up to. This generation have nothing to feel guilty about. They have a beautiful country, a beautiful culture, the envy of the world. They're beautiful people, beautiful people, such civilized and decent people, and they have nothing to feel guilty of. So what this is an underestimation of the culture and ideology that they're allowing in. That's what it is. Like everyone's automatic humanity response is we must help these people, but not help them if it involves the destruction of your culture and your country. Not help them at the cost or the expense of young German girls. And I'm all for helping refugees. I just don't think they should be helped in Europe. I think they should be helped in the Middle East. I think that we should be leading the way in funding and military support to make sure that there are buffer zones. But I don't think that importing, and to be honest, by importing 1.2 million, is she making any impact on the suffering of refugees across the Middle East? Because there's tens of millions.
Yeah.
And what other option is there? Bring the whole of Syria into Europe? It solves nothing. It solves nothing. And what she's actually done by doing this is she's opened up the floodgates, and we'll now see absolute stampedes of tens of millions over the next 5 years.
Well, I've also read a bunch on how it's not just about the violence, but also just the actual system, the systems that are in place, the social systems. You know, I was reading something this morning about how all of these people that are coming from Syria, a huge percentage of them have really bad teeth. Their teeth are really bad. Now they're going to get free dental coverage, and it's going to cost it was something like €1 billion or something, but they're not going to pay for it. So the average German taxpayer is going to have to pay for it. And then that right there, when their taxes go up, then naturally they're going to be more resentful of these people. So it's hitting people at the economic level and at the violent level. It just seems like a terrible mix for a society.
It's going to hit them everywhere. I believe 80% of them can't read or write. I believe that many of the real refugees that have come from Syria are going to be suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They're going to need counselling. They're going to need help. There's so many problems that will come from this. And we say 1.2 million, but they're allowed to bring their families after 3 years, right? And they're allowed their EU passports. So that 1.2 will become 6 or 8. It doesn't have the infrastructure simply, but what Angela Merkel's fully aware of is that they won't stay in Germany. They're going to come to countries like mine.
Yeah.
And she knows it. She knows. And in fact, just last week, the German government have come out and said, we've lost 600,000 refugees. We've lost them, asylum seekers. We've lost them. They're not where they said they were. They've gone. That. Now, 600,000. How many of them are rapists? How many are ISIS fighters? How many are criminals? We have no idea. No idea at all.
So let me ask you this, because a lot of this, at some level, you hear the people throwing around the term Trojan horse a lot. And a lot of it sort of sounds like a conspiracy, that there has been this organized effort to just influx all these people. And I think I've seen even in some of the videos that you've tweeted, when you see just like hundreds or thousands of migrants crossing, it does seem like it's 80 or 90% men that are 20 or 30. You don't see a lot of women. You see, occasionally you'll see some women and some children, but it does seem like a lot of men. But to go that route, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. To go and say, oh, there's an intentional plan to flood Europe with these people to ultimately take over. But I suspect by the 50 minutes we've spent together, you don't think it's much of a conspiracy.
There can be no other reason. Anyone with any common sense and intelligence or brain can look at what's happening and know it's not going to be good for Europe. Anyone can look at what's happening. Angela Merkel made comments such as immigrants are more prone to violence and extremism than non-immigrants. She said that years ago. She's also made comments saying that multiculturalism has failed. They've already failed to integrate millions of Muslims. Yeah. So why is she bringing millions more? What reason? If anyone else can give a reason, and how are these millions?
Well, what do you think? What do you think actually? What do you think is going on in her head then? If everything you've said here is true, Angela Merkel, she was just Time Woman of the Year, right? I mean, this is a bright lady, right? So
Angela Merkel has no children. Angela Merkel has no children, and she cares not for the future of her country or her people. That's truthfully what I feel. I don't think she cares about the future of her people. And at the same time, you have this, as you said, people holding her up on a pedestal. At first, whether it was through I can't say it was through ill intention, because I think they know. Everyone knows full well what this is going to do to Europe. We know full well what's going to happen. And what you're seeing is that actually the only countries in Europe that are freely speaking honestly are the countries that don't have a rather high percentage of Muslims. It's Poland, it's Hungary, it's Czech Republic, it's Slovakia. Their political leaders are coming out and saying what needs to be said. Now, if you look at the UK's former political leaders, if you look at Sir William Gladstone, he held the Quran above his head. He's in Parliament, and he said that Islam, this Quran is a violent and accursed book, and we will never have peace on this earth so long as we have this book. Winston Churchill said that individual Muslims will show amazing characteristics, but the backwardness of Islam has the power to bring Europe back to the Dark Ages. Now, they're two world leaders that we have statues of, that the whole world loved. And if they were around today, they would be called bigots and extremists. And that's simply for telling the truth. My Prime Minister says that Islam is a religion of peace. And the facts speak very different to that. And at the moment, the problem we have is that by telling the truth, which even if people don't like the truth, we have to be honest.
I also think when people say Islam is a religion of peace, or Christianity is a religion of peace, or Judaism is a religion of peace, it's a moot point. Because a religion is only a set of ideas, all a religion is what its adherents do, right? It's a religion of peace, that means nothing. That an idea is what people do with it. So I find those statements like that just don't add anything to the conversation.
No, and we hear them after every terrorist attack, every single terrorist attack. That's all we're told. And in fact, it's not all we're told. I'll give you two other circumstances now as a parent, as a dad. I was studying the biography of Muhammad, and I'm sat at home and I'm preparing for a debate. And my daughter, who is 8 years old, she walked past me and said, because I've never taught my children a thing. My kids never heard of the English Defence League. I live two very separate lives, and I want to protect them for as long as possible from understanding these politics. Mm-hmm. My daughter walked past and said, "Muhammad, peace be upon him." And I looked at her and I said, what did you just say? And why did you just say that? And she said, well, I was taught at school, you have to say peace be upon him. I said, peace be upon him. So that's just one incident. Then another incident about a mosque. And then when I took my children to look at another school, one of the things they had to do was put the different religious buildings with the different religious words. Yeah, the only one my daughter could do, the religions of the world, was Islam, because what's happening now in the national curriculum in the UK is that Islam is the favoured religion. Islam is what's being pushed and propagated to all of our youth and children, and they're brainwashing. I don't mind if they want to talk about Muhammad. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth about the man. Right, he was not a man of peace. Some of the things he done was such immoral things.
No, he killed a lot of people. That's a fact.
It's a fact. But they're not teaching that. They're teaching that this is this great man Muhammad, that we must all respect and say peace be upon him. That's what they're teaching 8-year-old English children. So then by the time that next generation come out of the schools, they've been brainwashed into this mindset. And as soon as your parents, even, I've seen it across the country, parents who have not wanted their children to be taught these things are then branded as racist as well. I'm all for the truth being taught to my kids, but then I'm then haven't even spoke to my children. If I haven't spoke to my children about Islam, I don't want school talking to them about it.
Well, that's one of the strange things, and I think we see this a little bit in America, where they'll say, well, we need to learn more about Islam because of this. And to me, it's like, we should not be learning more about Islam. We should not be learning more about Christianity. We should not be learning more about Judaism or Mormonism or Jainism or any of them. What we should be learning about are secular values. We should be learning about the things that tie us together, not all the little differences that are just going to split us.
I'm completely in agreement. It's just that the fundamental problem, I always say that I believe in secular schools. I think we should have secular schools. But then I don't believe we should also, I don't believe that should pose a problem for Sikh schools or Hindu schools or Christian schools, because they're not causing us the problems that we face. These huge problems that we face currently are caused by Islam. They're inspired by Islam. And if they want to sit in schools and talk about Muhammad, they need to tell them that he raped a child, he married a child, he committed murder. They need to tell the truth. And they're not. So then we have this complete watered down educational system that is lying to the next generation of youth in the UK.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have to wrap up. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about. And hopefully with the way I prefaced this whole episode, people will learn about you and they can make the decisions, whether they think you're racist or whether they think you're preaching the truth or somewhere in between. But just to wrap up, give me something that you think, give me some hope here. Give me some hope. I mean, you're working with Pegida now. It doesn't sound like a hate organization to me. So give me some hope for an ability to turn some of this around and for some coexistence.
Europe is waking up. Hugely, the people of Europe. You've just seen a declaration called the Fortress Europe, which is it's called the Prague Declaration, which 14 different countries now have signed to. On the 6th of February, for the first time, there's going to be demonstrations in England, in Holland, in Denmark, in Germany, in the Czech Republic, in Poland, all simultaneously at the same time. This is the start of a friendship and partnerships being built across Europe. Not just Europe, actually. Australia are also marching with us. We hope that by the next time we have America, we hope we have Canada, we hope we have India, we hope we have the world, because this is a worldwide problem we have to face. And there is hope, and there'll always be hope, because to be honest, I know wholeheartedly that our love for freedom and our love for democracy will always outweigh their hatred and want for Sharia.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, it was really interesting talking to you, and I'm sure we'll keep talking. But I was going to send people to Amazon to buy your book, but Amazon took your book off, didn't they?
They've took it off and put it back up 3 times.
Right. So I'm not sure if it's up right now, but they can definitely get your book at tommyrobinson.co.uk, and they can get the Kindle version at least.
Kindle in America, yeah.
On Amazon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. And, it's difficult stuff, but that's why we have to have these conversations. So I thank you for coming on.